I'm Louise Cox from Douglas Jackson, Executive Search Consultant, and I am conducting a video interview today with one of our industry leaders around COVID recovery, from a business that's actually done this really successfully and getting people back into the office. Whenever I think of employee engagement and people, this particular leader is always at the forefront of my mind. So over to Dan Eddy to introduce yourself. Dan, hi.
Thanks, Hannah. Good afternoon, everybody. Dan Eddy. I am Customer Experience Director at Vanarama, which is a company based in Hemel Hempstead. We're all about vehicle leasing, so trucks, vans and cars. And we've got about 220 people in our organisation in the headquarter office, which is, as I say, in Hemel Hempstead.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So we have formulated a selection of questions to basically help you in your operation to transition your workforce back into the office. So I'll crack on with the first one. We know that I like to talk, so here we go. What is the one thing that you have learned from most during lockdown, Dan?
So there's one word, and I'm sure many of my industry colleagues and leaders will reference this. It's all about communication. If we thought we were pretty good at communication pre-lockdown, pre-COVID, then we were sadly mistaken, because actually looking back on it, we were pretty average. The one thing we've learned the most is that you can't communicate enough. It's got to be, and I use this word absolutely as it is, it's got to be relentless. Clearly, it's got to have a purpose to it, but the kind of openness and transparency of what you're communicating to your people and your involvement in what your people need through that communication is really key. So that's the biggest learning that we've had, and actually now as we're transitioning back into the office and to the new normal, blended working, which I'm sure we'll get on to talk about. I've just been talking to our people panel about the success of the comms and engagement that we've had during this lockdown period, but actually what is it they want to keep going during as we transition back to normal and stop doing daily and weekly things, and things start to become more fortnightly or maybe monthly. How do we ensure that we keep the quality of the communication in the place that it needs to be? So communication is the one thing.
Great, wonderful, thank you. And so what was the main consideration for you when planning on how to do this successfully?
So again, when for all businesses or across our country and of course internationally, they would have been thinking about safety of their people first, and then kind of cash, and then the kind of business and customer future, and probably in that very order. So when we're planning, we're thinking about the safety of our people first and foremost, and working with them to build that plan, to make sure that they are going to feel comfortable with the processes and the protocols and the plans that we're going to be put into place. And then of course we'll come back to that communication piece, how that is then communicated, how you can make it really visible as a plan so that people understand what's expected of them or what environment they're going to be coming into, and then of course accept any ideas and any thoughts and any feedback that come from the people as they enter into that environment. So whilst it's a very safety people-led initiative, of course it is, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of thought processes that go into things like the office cleaning regime, the sanitization kits as people arrive for their first day, or is that kind of a weekly sanitization kit that they might need, the gels, the wipes, the availability of those things for cleanliness purposes, the one-way systems, so one entry point, one exit point. We've got a temperature check machine, which also allows you to sort of get an indication of how you're feeling if you're under the weather, and the temperature check would bring that up, and you can have a conversation with your immediate manager about that. clear signage, social distancing footprints around so for coffee machines, where should I stand, where should I be, all that kind of helpful things. And also being prepared to challenge each other when perhaps someone's going the wrong way around a one-way system, or as you innately would do if you're having a conversation with somebody by a couple of chairs, you might get a bit too close. So all of those things we've talked a lot about, and they've been built into our plan. Feedback about that, and of course, as we transition in our phased return to work, so we've just gone from 32 people to 57 in July, and the plan is to go to 88 in August. As we transition through that increase, all of these things, and being really conscious about our behaviour and sticking to processes and protocols and making sure kits are available, all of those things become even more important, because there'll be some nervousness from our employees about coming back into the office. So it's not a one plan, let it run. It's having a plan and then developing it and nurturing it and accepting feedback and keeping each other honest to that plan. So those have been the main considerations. There's a lot of them, but it's been very successful. And again, referencing our people panel this morning, they were very pleased with the plans and the protocols we've put in place, and it's had really, really positive feedback and made people feel very comfortable and assured coming back into the office.
Great, really helpful insight there, Dan. Thank you for that. So how did you effectively engage with your people in order to execute this?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I suppose again it's about coming back to the C word, the communication word again. Opening up all of those channels, because you've got people who may be on furlough, people who are coming back into the office in that kind of first wave. You could be people who are actually planning all of this. So you need all of those channels, whether it's Teams, Slack, email, workplace. Facebook Workplace is a really good comms platform. Whether it's business updates, whether it's team huddles in the morning, there are lots of ways in which we can continue to engage and communicate with our people. But if I just walk through those slowly. So we have our people panel. You've heard me mention that twice already. That's a group of representatives from the organisation. They're the kind of voice of the people, if you like, particularly around comms and engagement issues and thoughts and ideas. So they've been great as a conduit for getting feedback around how effective our planning has been. Workplace as a comms platform means that everybody, furloughed or not, has been able to see what's going on, see our plans, see our CEO every day. For 100 days, he has posted a personal message on Facebook Workplace, so that everybody can see and hear exactly how he's feeling, first and foremost. Secondly, what the business is up to, what our plans are, the transparency and openness of what the position is, what's happening in the industry, what's happening beyond, what are some of the key messages that people need to be aware of beyond our own organisation, and of course, obviously within it. The daily work post by business leaders and others within the organisation, so that others, so people again who are furloughed or are coming into the office can see people who are in the office and actually I feel safe, I'm okay, all of that kind of stuff. The team huddles that have been teams orientated again, whilst we've all been on working from home. And now as people are transitioning, it's really important that is continued. And again, you've got people, and you've got the blended of working from home and in office. And then our weekly business updates, which is the whole organisation, all of 200 plus people coming onto a Teams call, led by our CEO again, to again continue that transparent, open communication about what's gone on this week, what are the plans for next week, what are the plans for a bit further along as well, without having too much insight into how it's all going to play out, of course, but just constant communication. But through all of those channels, mechanisms, and protocols and processes in place, that's how we've managed to effectively engage. Now, how do we measure all of that in terms of effectiveness? Well, we've got our Econ platform, which is our employee engagement platform. That gives us an ENPS score, so an employee net promoter score, exactly the same as a customer net promoter score. So the kind of ENPS score is underpinned by all of the ingredients that make up engagement. I won't go into too much detail now, but our employee engagement score currently is at 58, which if you correlate to a customer NPS of 58 or 60 is very, very good. It's very, very positive. And much of that ENPS score is based around the effectiveness of our comms and engagement during the lockdown process. I can tell you now, from the 24th of March when we left the building to now, our ENPS score has gone up by 10 points during that period.
That's great. I mean, not only is the business really lucky to have you, Dan, as part of the leadership team, but it's absolutely fantastic as well that your CEO has been so visible throughout as well. And, you know, no doubt, obviously, a key factor and contributor to your success with all of this, isn't it, really? But, I mean, with regards to any feelings of uncertainty, were there any? And how did you deal with those?
Well, of course, there were absolutely none whatsoever. No. Just joking. Yeah, of course there were. But having those communication channels open and clear dialogue, being able to, whether it's through people panel, through workplace, through huddles, etc., we were able to tackle those head on and get in front of those becoming bigger issues. So things like, of course, equipment and tools for working from home. Would all of that stand up to the test? Would we be as productive working from home as we have been in the office? The answer has been unequivocally yes. We've just been as productive. In fact, in some of our areas, our digital and technical related areas, we've been actually more productive, and that's proven to be the case. So we've had some real learning there. There was worry about the loss of the team atmosphere. We talk about the Vanarama vibe, about the great it feels to work in the office with your teams, the various teams that we have, the makeup of our organisation, and the real kind of one of our values is we are family. We genuinely talk about that all of the time. So we were worried about the loss of that, but again, through all the comms channels that I've talked about and the relentless communication, we've managed to keep that vibe, as it were, going as much as we can, keep that kind of heartbeat alive. So, and the other thing was how would managers cope and use the tech to communicate, manage, have one-to-ones, have effective conversations with their employees during working from home during lockdown periods. And again, we've had to do a bit of coaching and a bit of education there for ourselves as senior leaders, but of course, for managers who are probably the most important layer, aren't they, in terms of managing the kind of frontline customer facing, or the people doing really important work. They're the guys and girls that need the most support. So we've thought and put into place, various mechanisms to help with that. And of course, their own working environment. So I mentioned equipment and tools, but we've definitely had people going to work from home and been working off ironing boards and such. Not had that office environment. So again, we've been keen to look at how we can best support that in the immediacy of that being the case, but also then long term. Now we've just done a survey out to all of our employee base to ask them several questions about what they need to be working effectively at home moving forward. So it's not just the challenge of the immediacy of working from home and going into a lockdown, and also coming back into some working from home, some working in the office, and some employees still being furloughed. We've got to think longer term now, because working from home is with us. It's going to be part of our options, part of our agility and flexibility plan as we move forward. And therefore, we need to make sure that all of our employees have got what they need to be as efficient and as effective as they want to be, as we want them to be, and as the customers need them to be moving forward. So lots of challenges, and we haven't finished addressing all of them, but we're getting there through the help of our people.
Good on you, Dan. Good on you. And that leads us on to the next question quite nicely, actually. So do you have anybody working from home now? What's the setup, and then what's the next kind of phased, what are the next phase stages for you as a business?
Yeah, sure. So we've said, about 220 people who work in the organisation. We've currently in the office at the moment got about 57. I know that because that's the plan, and I've been in the office Monday and Tuesday this week. I've counted those numbers. We've been slightly below that number on both days, but thereabouts. That kicked up at the 1st of July, so we started going back into the office on the 15th of June. 32 people in the office at that point, mostly on the top floor. We've got 2 floors. The 1st of July has seen that kick up to 57, as I mentioned, with some of the ground floor teams coming into play, some of the tech marketing accounts teams coming into play. And then again, we'll kick up to 88 in August, as I previously mentioned. So very much a phased, you might call it cautious return, but for all the right reasons, for the safety first, people-led reasons. So people are doing a 3-day in the office, 2 days at home, operational type of schedule. So they may be doing a Monday, Tuesday at home, and then Monday, Tuesday at home, and then a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the office to give to. But obviously we've got different schedules and shifts for different teams in our organisation. What's been really important is, of course, we're transitioning also people back from furlough back into office working and back into that blended working environment. So again, the communication has been key around that, and making sure that they've got confidence and visibility of all of those plans. So we've got a workforce planning app, which is enabling everybody's shift patterns to be put on there, so that everybody can see everybody else's shift patterns. They can also see when they're in the office and when they're working from home. So that means as an individual, I can see exactly what's expected of me in terms of in the office or working from home, but I can also see my colleagues and my other departments that I might need to work with during the day, and when they're in the office and not. So that's really helped. So the big thing there is the visibility of when people are expected in the office. So all about phasing, all about planning, all about blended working, and of course, as I've shared with you, we'll move on from 88 in August to maybe closer to 100 as we get towards the end of September. Will we ever get back to 220 people back in the office? The answer to that is no. We probably won't. And we'll find our optimal number as we work through the next few months. But so far, so good.
Great. And I have to mention, Dan, I hope you've got a cat or a dog living with you.
It's a dog. It's the dog. He's just come to the door here. It's my black Labrador, Milo. He does this, just even when I shut the door, he just barges his way. So.
Right. And so finally then, Dan, and you've been great so far, and as usual. Well, what is the one piece of advice that you would give anybody looking to bring their colleagues back into the office environment?
Sure. Well, there's a few bits of advice. So I don't think it's one piece. Again, the one obvious thing is that communication thing. But I'd add collaborate and communicate to that. So build a safety first phase return to work plan and evolve it with your workforce. It won't be perfect. So get that feedback into the initial planning to make sure you've got something that's going to make people feel involved, assured, and well communicated with. Communicate as clearly and quickly as you can. Send it to people, make it available to people, put it on platforms, etc., so that everybody, whether they're furloughed or in the office or working from home, can see it. So again, back to those channels of communication that you've got, get it out so people can see it and they can feedback on it. And the phased return, you've got to take a first step. So take it slowly is my advice. Gain feedback, improve your plan as numbers move forward. So I referenced earlier that we just come from the people panel meeting this morning, where we've kicked up to the 57, when it felt very different to having 32 people in the office, got to be said, and having more traffic, and how we felt about challenging each other to continue to adhere to the processes and protocols that are in place and that keep us safe and feeling assured about working in the office. And the final thing is just keep communicating. The notes that we've taken from the panel today, the messages that will go out continually through this week about clean desk policy, about one-way systems, all of those things. We're going to put up a couple of new signs around the office because we've had feedback that it's not quite obvious where they should go at certain times. So, or indeed for people delivering stuff to the office, it's not quite clear what the protocols are there, or as clear as it could be. So we're continually getting feedback and evolving our plans. But the key is to keep communicating what's going on.
Wonderful. Dan, thank you so much for spending the time with me and for us. Some really valuable hints and tips there and advice. So that's wonderful. And to the wider audience, thank you for watching. And I'll be in touch soon with some more helpful content for you. So that's great. Thank you very much.